Hideki Matsuyama's swing analysis. We're going to be talking about why he pauses at the top, and we're also going to be going over his lower body, how he rotates, and how I like to see it a little bit different from what he's currently doing. Let's go, dude. Alright guys, so if you guys are new to the channel, what we do here at Mike's OG Academy is everything that you need to know about golf instruction, we do it here. So if you guys haven't already, feel free to hit that little red subscribe button and let's get into this video. Alright guys, so I have a Japanese professional golfer here on the left of your screen. He has been watching our content, he knows about the rotational swing and what I like to teach. So he's going to be used as our model, and then we're going to compare him obviously to Hideki Matsuyama, right? One of the best Japanese golfers of all time, possibly. First off, before we start comparing these two, let's start looking at why does Hideki pause at the top of his swing, okay? So let's run, we're gonna run him through real quick at a quarter of a speed. Don't watch the player on the left, just watch Hideki. And he swings. So as you can see, Hideki has like a little pause here at the top of the swing before he starts going down, okay? So what I've noticed from players who kind of have this, because there's other players on the tour that have some type of backswing similar to this where they have a little pause but it's not as pronounced. I think they're doing stop and go drills with their coaches. So let me kind of explain. A stop and go drill is basically when you make a full swing, you stop at the top of the swing, whether it be for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And what you're basically doing throughout that process is you're making sure that you're thinking about what you're doing on the downswing, and then you go down and swing. So because the golf swing, the transition and the downswing is so fast, sometimes it's really good when we're working on a new thing to swing up to the top of the swing, stop, give yourself some time to think about it, and then go down and hit. And I'm almost 100% positive that that's what Hideki's coach was making him do. Now, what type of motion were they working on is another question. So let's kind of go into that before we start comparing as well, because I think it's going to connect the ideas that we're going to talk about in this in the future with this video together, and I think it's going to make it a little bit more cohesive. So let's get into that. So what I would say is back when Hideki was a kid, he did something called spinning out the hips, which basically just means that from the top of the swing, spinning out the hips, the easiest way I could think about this is you're literally getting up to the top and you're just spinning. So there's no pressure shift into the ground, there's no lowering of the left pelvis, there's no gripping into the ground, and there's no rotation. It's more so you literally just spin, right? There's literally none of the stuff that we usually like to talk about. It's literally just a spin, right? And this is kind of a really cool concept because I think this is where a lot of you guys are getting confused. Who want to do the rotational swing, you think you just have to spin your body open, and that's actually not correct. If you want to do the rotational swing, there has to be some elements added on to just opening up the body, or else you're just going to be spinning out, right? So I think that's what Hideki's coach was teaching him back in the day when he was a kid, because that's really common with kids to spin out from the top of the swing just because they're trying to swing as fast as they can, right? And they still haven't quite figured out, obviously, how to do all the little tiny minutia things. So anyways, that would be my assumption of why he's doing this stop and go drill. Now, some more explanation behind that. If you ever, well, you guys have heard of him. If you guys know Tiger Woods, back in '97, before he started working with Butch, Tiger had a very similar motion. He was almost spinning out. They called it an Ole move. And if you guys haven't already, I want you guys to pause this video real quick. I want you to go look up Tiger Woods and Butch Harmon. I think it was in Las Vegas. They do this little parody where Tiger Woods and Butch Harmon were on a show, and they were talking about the swing changes they made from '97 to 2000. And I want you guys to watch that little bit real quick, because that's going to make this whole next part of the video a lot easier for you guys to grasp. Basically a little summary of it was Tiger in '97 was spinning out his trail side. Basically his trail side heel was coming off the ground really early, and he was almost kind of spinning out and jumping up and getting a lot of this spin, a lot of right side lateral bend, and just getting kind of stuck and flipping is basically the summary of it. But I want you guys to go watch that video because they go in great detail of what he was doing and then the way that they try to fix it. And I just want you guys to get that background, because the way they try to fix it was a little bit different than the way that I would recommend fixing it. And I think this is a really super important point that breaks up certain types of instruction. I think this is where everyone splits off. They know that you're doing the Ole move or the spinning out move, but they try to fix it. One side of the spectrum tries to quiet the lower body and just have the arms win the race, is what they call it. And the other people really go into how the lower body should be working, and then make sure that the lower body still is the basically starts everything, the pelvis starts lowering and all the stuff that I talk about, would be the next branch off, right? So let me kind of go over that again because I'm even confused myself, but basically what it is, one section wants to fix the ole move, which the arms starting the downswing, and the other one just wants to make sure that they're still starting with the lower body, but they're doing it correctly. Okay, so that's the two branches of instruction that we're gonna kind of be talking about. Cool. All right, so now let's compare these two golfers because I think there's something to definitely be said. Now, they're obviously hitting different clubs, but I still think you guys can get a really good grasp of what the lower body's doing. So let's go into Hideki's first, and let's kind of talk about a few things that I think are not the way that I would quite like to see it. So let's get into it. So we're gonna zoom in here on the pelvis line, and we're gonna start out with this. So as you can see, Hideki almost has the lead side pelvis higher than the right. That's actually something called the marching move. Kelvin Meagher made that famous. It's something that I personally I like to see. You don't have to get as exaggerated as Hideki is here, but I like a fairly neutral pelvis at setup. I don't want the pelvis to already be in a position like this, because that means you almost just slid in the backswing instead of rotated and basically what you did was getting the left side pelvis lower in the backswing, which then results into most people sliding excessively forward, right? So Hideki's doing a great job with that in the backswing. Now I want you to start watching his pelvis line in transition. So we're gonna draw a quick little arrow here just to use as a reference point. So there's an arrow there, and let's see what happens here in transition. So notice how it's lowered, right? Subtly, not a lot, right? It doesn't lower a lot, but it lowers, right? So he's getting the lead side pelvis lower than the right side, or trail side, which is left pelvic tilt. Now from here, I think this little initiating move is amazing. He pushes forward, and then now he's gonna start pushing backwards, and then start extending, okay? But I think he's doing stuff a little bit off here, and let's kind of dive into with it. So as he gets pushing forward, I like this position right here, but I want to zoom out. From here, I really start seeing where this is basically where I start seeing what I don't like to see and what I think is causing him to get a little bit loss of control of the club face at the bottom of the swing, which is this move. Let's take a look at his lead side knee. So we call this kicking it into internal rotation a little bit early, is what I like to call it. So notice how this angle is over at 158. That just means that his kneecap has kicked inwards. Now I want you guys to do an experiment real quick. Get up and swing up to the top of your swing and kick your kneecap in this way immediately in transition. What you're gonna notice is that your pelvis line is now gonna go like this. So your left side is gonna be higher than the right. Now from that position, I want you to try to turn your upper body. I want you to try to rotate. You're gonna find that it's gonna be very, very hard to do, and hence that's the stalled out position that we're trying to talk about, right? And that's what I think Hideki's starting to get into. Now let's watch his pelvis, let's draw a line on his pelvis line here. Notice how it's fairly level, right? A little bit too level for my liking in this position. Now let's keep watching a couple more frames, and we'll stop right about here. So from this position, we can see that his left side pelvis is a lot higher than the right side at this time. And let's also look at something called his knee. Notice how his kneecap right here is pointing this way still, right? It's not rotated or it hasn't cleared out to this position. So I think Hideki's in pretty much a really stalled out position here, but he does something called shearing. They call it shearing basically to compensate for this. And let's kind of get into it. This is why Hideki isn't stalled out, and this is why he's still a good player, I think personally, even though he does some things I don't like to see. So let's look at his foot right here. So let's look at where it's directed right now currently. It's right about something like that. Let's call that 12 o'clock. Let's look at the next frame. Now it's pointing somewhere all the way over here. So in golf, we call that shearing, or basically what he's doing is he's supinating his lead foot at last second. He's supinating like that, or he's shearing. That is how Hideki clears out at impact. So right about here, most players are gonna be stalled out and just start extending. But because he shears that foot out like that, he's able to rotate and snap through the ball like such. It's actually a super powerful move, and it's what you see a lot of the long drive guys do. And so basically the argument from here is I'm not arguing that that's not a powerful move, and that could possibly be a consistent move as well. My argument is I think this move right here, the shearing, is gonna lead to some issues in the future. Now, I could be completely wrong there. He's maybe going to start tearing some tendons or something like that and really just mess up his foot, his lead foot. He can also maybe start messing around with the lead side knee right here as well, and possibly getting some issues that Tiger kind of ran into a little bit as well. But anyways, that is basically what he's doing to rotate. Now, what I like instead, let's take Hideki down to this position, and then we're gonna take the player that I like to see, fairly same position, right? This is more so what I like to see with the knee structure here. Notice how this kneecap has gone into external rotation, or it's not pointing at 12 o'clock, it's pointing off somewhere around here. Now also notice at this position, the player still has the left pelvic tilt here. Now the reason why he has the left pelvic tilt like that is because his kneecap right here has not kicked inwards yet, and it's still pretty much at 12 o'clock. This allows the left pelvic tilt, which also allows him to get anterior plus lumbar lordosis, which basically just means he can rotate, right? Then as we see through the ball, he has continuous rotation. There's no stall, right? So one would say that this motion right here looks a lot more controlled than that motion. See how he has a little bit of a stall right there, and then he starts coming through. If you see this player, it's almost one continuous motion. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the main difference between Hideki Matsuyama's swing and this Japanese professional golfer's swing. I honestly think Hideki has a great golf swing. I think he's doing a lot of good things, but I think the shearing that he's doing with that lead foot is eventually going to lead him into some injuries. I also think he needs to work a lot on getting this lead side knee not working so far in internal rotation so early. And from there, once he starts getting that down, he allows the lead side knee to start clearing out a little bit more, getting a little bit more to external rotation. I think from there, he's going to be able to rotate a little bit better, and I think he's going to have a little bit more control over the club face, because Hideki's kind of notorious for going a little streaky with the driver. You can be on one time, and then you can also be really far off. So I think the main reason for that is just because he has this little last second shearing move, and he's a little bit just stalled out, guys. Just a little bit stalled out, a little bit lost the club face when he's off. And I think if he could just do a little bit better leg work with the knees and the pelvis, just moving that a little bit differently, a little bit more like this Japanese pro, I think he would be a little bit more consistent. All right, guys, hopefully this helped. If you guys haven't already, feel free to smash that like button. Let me know, leave a comment. Let me know if you guys like these types of videos, if it made sense, if you guys need any more explanation. And as always, guys, hit that little red subscribe button. All right, guys, best of luck and play some golf.
Cause you look so good together. She is me. You know we were so much better. I know.